Thanks for joining us today at Unstuck Your Business Podcast.
You went into business with a passion to explore your skills and talents and show the world what you can do to contribute into our society and into our economic ecosystem. But a couple of years into the business and your drive and motivation has dwindled, and now you feel stuck.
When you find yourself at this crossroad of thoughts and emotions, how do you deal with it? In this podcast, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of entrepreneurship to help you unstuck your business. We are your hosts, Inés Nazario Vega from Business Essentials Virtual Assistants.
And Edith Duran from Reason Marketing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unstuck Your Business. In today's episode, we will talk about the transformative power of charity, kindness, and giving back. From heartwarming stories of impact to insights from inspiring change makers. This episode will guide you on how to make a difference in your community and beyond.
Whether you're a seasoned philanthropist, a passionate volunteer, or just curious about how small acts can lead to big changes, you're in the right place. Join us as we celebrate humanity's capacity for compassion and learn how to turn goodwill into meaningful results. To help us with this topic today, joining us is Joe Hearn, owner of Joe Hearn Events, and also a well-known philanthropist in Central Florida. And just to add a little tidbit, I've had the pleasure of working with Joe beside him back when the Hispanic Chamber of Central Florida was the Hispanic Chamber, and he is just an outstanding guy. Joe, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your business and how you got started to be so passionate about charity giving.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that wonderful introduction, Edith. Inez, it's wonderful to see both of you, and I'm love that we have had the opportunity to work in many projects together that help others in our communities and help make an impact on people's lives, especially when it comes to small businesses and some of the youth initiatives that we've done personally together. So I thank you for your part on that. My name is Joe Hearn. I own Joe Hearn Events. I am an event planner in the Central Florida area, but I travel all over. Just got back from South Beach, and I've got a wedding in Georgia next month, and I'm all over the place, and it's a good thing. I do everything from intimate gatherings to major corporate events. We have some big corporate events with Advent Health this weekend, and we have had many in the past, and work all over the spectrum. I really have an eye for detail and planning and making sure that the event is really flawless from start to finish, and I take a lot of pride in what I do. I was born and raised right here in Central Florida in Winter Park, native Floridian, third generation native Floridian. My family is Italian, Spanish, and Irish. My grandparents are from Italy and Spain, so I have a very unique admiration for our Latin community and the culture and all the beauty that comes with it in the different just festivities, and just every day is a celebration, it seems like, in this culture. I love what I do, and I love helping my community. I really think that the world is a better place when you can help and give to others, and sometimes just by helping someone else, it helps you in the end as well.
Absolutely. Joe, I've known you, I want to say, for about 5 years now, if not more. And that's one thing that I've always admired about you. I have always seen you giving back to the community and to so many organizations within the community. And that's why when we were trying to think who can we bring in to talk about this topic, we immediately say Joe Hearn. He is definitely epitome of giving back to the community. So, Joe, can you share a specific story, perhaps, of your experience of giving back to the community that had a profound impact in the community or within the person as yourself or business? Is there any stories that you can tell us and where you can say, oh my gosh, I didn't think that giving to this organization or giving to this particular event was going to have such an impact?
Absolutely. You know, I work with the organization, one of the organizations I work with, from the Boys and Girls Club, the Sisters Build Network. I'm really inspired by the advocacy and the philanthropy when it's surrounded around our youth. I feel like the investment in our youth is probably our most profound impact on our tomorrow. And the more we can pour into them today is going to really change tomorrow's world. You know,
Mm.
I feel strongly that we grew up in an era where we didn't have a lot of technology, not to show my age, but we didn't have the technology that's part of today, you know. So a lot of our hobbies and activities, you know, they were surrounded by ways of volunteerism and helping others, whether it was through our church or in our local neighborhood, because there wasn't an iPhone to play games on or to be on social media and to do some of that stuff. So it really hit me that, you know, our youth today are missing out on what it means to be service above self and what it means to have a servant heart and to help others and to truly see the impact it has not only in our local communities, but nationally and all over the world, because it really
Absolutely.
does change things.
Mhm.
And the group I worked with, the Sisters Build, Dr. Primrose Cameron, you know, I had the great opportunity to take on two mentors. They were twins. And I call them my daughters because they basically are my daughters now. And it was inspiring to be able to give them opportunities to be in spaces that they may not have had the opportunity to be in,
Mm.
whether circumstance, financial, upbringing, their culture. They were able to go into some like masterful events, very high end, a lot of community events. And I really watched them from a young age of 14, how that shaped them into these
Mm.
amazing young ladies that they are today. Both very dedicated to athletics, both very dedicated to college. They're both college students now. And I really realized that the impact of our words and our actions as an example to our youth, how profound that is for the future of others. And
Yes.
I would say working with the youth is probably one of the most impactful.
And I think it should be one of the most impactful things to do because they are indeed our future. And they are the ones that are gonna mark the trail of where we're going as a society. And you know, I think the investment in our youth is well worth it, and I cannot agree with you more. I, for one, whenever somebody asks me who is the person that most impacted you in your life, I always go back to my teacher in high school, Mrs. Mendez, and I think I mentioned her in another episode. And it's because just the little things that she did for the students, and especially for me, particularly, had such an impact on how I view the world thereafter. You know,
Mhm.
how I gained confidence and my self-esteem skyrocketed because of little things that she would do with her students. So thank you so much for sharing that story, Joe. But Joe, you know, our episode is really tailored to talk to our business community, business owners.
Sure.
Um, what are some creative ways that you feel that individuals or business owners can contribute to our community?
And Joe,
Absolutely.
could I, if I may add just an additional question to that one? You know, before we started recording, we mentioned a little bit about how difficult it was to be a small business owner and incorporate self care into our daily lives. And just as difficult would be to incorporate volunteer time, and even to small business owners that have a grand passion towards a cause. So I'm wondering if you can really speak to that business owner, because you're such a great example of a very busy person with not just one, multiple businesses, and you also hold multiple leadership roles in nonprofit organizations. You know, what are some tips for those business owners and creative ways that they can make it a priority to contribute to their communities?
Absolutely. And that's a great point because, as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, it seems like you're on the clock 24/7. There's really not downtime. There may not be time that you're doing your business at that moment, but you're always on. You're always thinking about what's coming next, what you got to do next, and what you have to do to keep your business going. I would say, Edith, really start small. I would start with community events that are on a weekend. I would say make one commitment. Maybe you're volunteering as an ambassador for an organization, maybe a chamber of commerce or a nonprofit, and say, I'm going to commit 1 hour a month, and start small and then see how that grows. And the thing about doing good for others, and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit more, is it, I always believe, what you put out in the world is what's going to come back to you. So if you put out
Absolutely.
negative, you're going to get negative. If you put out positive, you're going to get positive. So I do believe it all comes back with you. So advice I would give to a young business, an entrepreneur, is start small. Don't overcommit to what you can't handle. Commit an hour a week. And to begin with, start with a community event. Maybe it is a local 5K who's raising money for childhood literacy. And, bring your secretary, or if you're not a one-man show and you got a couple people in your office, say, hey guys, I'm going to, pay for your registration, and we're going to walk together to help this charity. And really try to, have your team believe in the process too. And I think what ends up coming organically from that is all of a sudden you have team members that if you're not able to be there, they're covering for you. And the representation of your organization as an organization that cares about community and gives back, that branding is still happening in your local community.
Yes. Yes, I have to agree with that, Joe. Starting small. I like something that you said that I think some business owners don't think about is engaging their staff, engaging their people in a charity event or charity organization. Because sometimes, you as a business owner, you may be very, very busy. But if you can engage your team, engage your staff, you're still contributing to that organization.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And,
it
for
might not be
example, go ahead.
directly, but you're still contributing by encouraging your people and paying for them, like you said, paying for them to be part of a 5K, and them, going there and supporting the organization. What an amazing way to put that, that little grain into the community.
And it's a cost-effective way too, Inez. It's not expensive. For instance, I'm currently the president of my Rotary Club, and we do a road cleanup. And, I always try to take on, especially some of my younger team members, I always try to bring a couple with me. It doesn't cost anything, but again, it engages them. And sure enough, what happens is when they see the activity in the community, they all of a sudden want to be a part of that energy. There's a good feeling about helping others. When you help someone, just like you and Edith are doing with this podcast, when you can help a small business, when you can help an individual achieve more, reach their goals, help them have successes that weren't expected, there's a great reward for that. That is not financial. There's a tremendous reward that you get personal satisfaction from.
Absolutely. And another creative way that, just thinking out loud here, another creative way that I think business owners can engage and contribute is perhaps, some of these events, these charity events, they have silent auctions, and they have baskets that they want to give away either as a prize or what have you, or as a silent auction. Donating those type of things that can raise extra money for that event is another way of contributing without having to invest, an amount of hours for the organization. And I was also thinking along the lines, not only donating items, you can donate time. Like if you are, for example, myself, I'm a virtual assistant agency, and if the organization needs some help in promoting their event, Those
Mhm.
are extra hours that I can probably use one of my VAs to, hey, can you help this organization put out the marketing for this charity event?
It's a
Mhm.
great point. Great point, Inez.
Yes.
And
And one other aspect of including your staff is just if you start to bring in all of the companies that are now have virtual and remote staff that maybe you don't get the opportunity to do something together as a team in person, but then you start to incorporate uh, not volunteer time or some type of giving program to a common charity that really now starts to create an additional bond between the company and their staff and employees because a lot of times benefits just are not enough. You want another pool to keep your loyal staff and employees inspired and committed to what you're all trying to create together.
yes.
Edith, that's a great point too, because as you know, I work with a lot of chamber of commerces, and workforce is a very big initiative that's been, a challenge over the last few years that we've really been focused on. And I have to say, you're 100% correct, because if you look at the number one reason people leave an employer, it's not money, it's not benefits, it's typically culture and
Mhm.
environment.
Mhm.
It's the
Yes.
actual work culture and environment. So I love the way you put that, because it's true. You may, especially in the virtual world, you may never get to have that team building opportunity with employees that are possibly working from home. A lot of
Mhm.
corporations are working remotely now. They're having their employees work remotely. So being able to engage them in a process that really, anytime most people, 90% of people, 99%, I would say, that volunteer or give back in some form or fashion, they have a tremendous sense of accomplishment and reward in that. So
Mhm.
I think that's a brilliant point.
Mhm. Yes. 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 Joe, one quick question I have for you. You've been around the community around this type of environment for a very long time. What do you think is holds people or companies back from giving more?
I think it's time. I think it's um, the anxiety of commitment, because most businesses, especially a small business, Inez,
Mhm.
they're working so hard. You have your own business, so you know how that goes.
Yes.
And you're worried about the anxiety of, oh, do I have time for that? Do I have time? And I
Mhm.
think that's probably what is just opening the door. You know what I mean? A lot of
Yes.
times it's just taking that step. And I think that's probably, I would say, 90% of it. I don't think that it's time well worth it. Cause like I said, it could be, oh, on my lunch break, I'm going to go down. They're having a food drive. I'm going to go
Mhm.
help bag food for people on my lunch break for an hour. I'm going to go after work at 5 o'clock. They're doing a sweater giveaway for the homeless. I'm going to help accept sweaters and volunteer. There's so many ways to volunteer easily. I think for a small business, they think that it's just such a big commitment, and it's really not. It's just starting small, like I said earlier, and letting it find your passion. I say, unfortunately, there are millions of charities out there because there's millions of needs in different aspects, from our homeless population to our youth to poverty to, starvation. There's a lot of cancer, so many things happening. So volunteer a little bit here and there, and then
Mhm.
you're going to find your passion. You're going to find that niche and say, that's what I want to do. And I'm doing it because I know a stronger community means a stronger business for myself. A
Yes.
weaker community means a weaker business for myself. And in
Yeah.
that process, you're going to meet people and they're going to remember, hey, oh, that was that lady I was talking to while we were collecting sweaters for the homeless during the cold season. She was awesome. You know what? I remember she said she was a virtual assistant, and my golly, I need some help. I've got so much going on. What was her name? And they're going to track you down. So you
Yes.
Yeah.
talk about how it is networking. I don't encourage anybody to, you know, volunteer and donate just because you want your business to grow, because that's the wrong
Yeah.
intention. And that's just me personally. There's
Mhm.
people that strategize, and even corporate level
Yes.
strategies, that, oh, if we do this, it's going to grow our business. I have a different philosophy on that. Like we just
Mhm.
said, I believe what you put into the world comes back to you.
Mhm.
So I always think putting that good out there. But it's a great way, Inez, to answer your question, is just try it. Spend a
Mhm.
little time here and there, and don't overcommit, because I think sometimes a lot of you have seen it. You both have served on board of director positions in different paths, and you've seen it firsthand where people say, oh yeah, I want to be a part of this, and not taking a full understanding of what that board position requires,
Oh, yes.
especially if it's involved in like a nonprofit who
Mhm.
has no paid employees, it's all volunteer based, then
Mhm.
it's a whole different ball game. So my recommendation, encouragement would be start small. You don't have to conquer the world in a day. Start small and let that grow from there.
Feeling overwhelmed by your to-do list? Emails, scheduling meetings, managing customer inquiries, social media. The list never ends. But guess what? You don't have to do it all. Let a virtual assistant from Business Essentials Virtual Assistant help you say goodbye to the mundane task of running your business and reclaim your passion over essentials. From administrative tasks, customer support, social media, marketing, and more, we've got you covered. It's like having an extra pair of hands without the overhead. Ready to work smarter, not harder? Visit us today at businessessentialsva.biz. Again, businessessentialsva.biz, and get the help you need today. You brought a good point. I, for myself, in 2025, I had made this commitment with this organization. It's called creatingjobs.org. And in the way that I don't have the time to volunteer as much as I used to, because I also have this podcast and I have other projects going on simultaneously. But in talking with Evan Keller, who is the executive director of the organization, I said, you know what, Evan, I'm just going to commit a percentage of my revenues to your organization. 5%, 10%. We don't know what that may be for you, but for me, it was, my hard call for 10%.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's
10% of my
another great way.
revenues.
Yeah.
And so it's something we're going to start in 2025. And what that is going to look like is that, my social media and all the information that relates to business essentials is also going to be shadowing creatingjobs.org. And saying, everything we do is helping this organization. And it may be looked at like, oh, she's doing it to grow the business, but really it's not. It's just something that I just went to one of the events. I really connected with Evan, the executive director. Manny de la Vega is part of the board. You guys know Manny de la Vega.
I know both of them, Manny and Evan, two great humanitarians.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing people. They're amazing people. And, my heart just called me to that. I said, one of the things that I said offline is that I want to be traveling and working overseas. And what better way to get engaged with an organization that helps businesses establish in small communities around the world?
Absolutely. And not only that, Inez, look at the example you're setting for other small businesses. That's what makes an impact. So kudos to you.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And Joe, switching gears just a little bit here, I have a question for you. You mentioned in the intro that you are basically grew up here in Florida, born and raised in Winter Park. Now you're in the land and really dominating all of Central Florida.
And beyond.
And beyond, right? Now entering other states and nothing. You're just definitely a positive force to be reckoned with. But I'm very curious. Have you, growing up, were you raised to always give back, or was there a turning point in your career that you said, you know what, this is going to be a part of what I do is to give back to the community?
Well, I'd love to give you some remarkable story how I was just inspired one day as a business owner, but I think it's always been instilled in me. So I was raised, my mother was a single mom, and she had five of us kids. And I
Mm.
always saw, how I'm so happy. I'm grateful for all my siblings, and they're wonderful. We all have good relationships. But I saw how much work they were. And like, I was a middle child, and my mother, I just saw her having to constantly nag and, get your work done, do this. And, when you're a single parent working two jobs, and then raising five children, that's not an easy task. So I
Mm-mm.
saw how hard she worked. And I saw that, my siblings, for me, I've always been a people pleaser. You both have known me for years. I like making people happy. It's just, that's my gratitude in life. That's my reward. I always tell people, I won't die a wealthy man, but I'll die a rich man. In my
Mm.
heart, I will be very, very rich. And I mean that. And I think, from the time as a child, watching my teenage brothers, come home, not do their chores, my mother come home and yell, it got to a point where I'm like, just listen, go play. I'm gonna do your chores. Don't tell mom. So when she comes home, she's super happy, have dinner cooked. And so I always, and of course I was the kid that she always said, come on, we're going to the church to volunteer. I was raised Catholic, and, Catholic churches always have something going on. So,
Yeah.
we went to a lot of that. So a lot of it was instilled in me. And then I think there was probably a portion in my career where I was in management, hospitality management in the early days. And I think I probably was really focused on learning and not having a lot of time for the giving back. But when I opened my own business, I always wanted to help people. So, unfortunately, sometimes you can get taken advantage of. So to be wise to business owners, be careful how you help too, because you create an expectation. And
Mm.
once you create that expectation, sometimes as a business, you're also the number that everybody calls when they need something. So I would say that's why I said start
Yes.
small, pick and choose, because you also have to pay your bills. You also have to be responsible, physically conservative for your organization as well. So do keep that in mind as a tip. But I do think I was just always kind of been someone who likes to help others. I will say that by helping others and by volunteering and by doing some of the philanthropy work, you, just as I mentioned, Inez is setting a great example by giving a percentage of her revenues back to that creating jobs organization. You're setting an example for others, and others pick up on that, and they're going to business owners that maybe you asked this same question to, Edith, and their answer was, oh, I did it just to get, noticed in the community, which is not a terrible, terrible thing, especially if
Mhm.
you're still helping. But it also breeds, you know what I mean? Like, people see that in your example, and then they want to be a part of it. They want to be a part of making a difference.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Joe, it sounds like giving, it was part of your DNA from the day you were
Yes.
born.
Yeah. I couldn't get away from it.
I couldn't.
No, why would you
Sometimes I
want to?
tried.
It's a
Sometimes I
gift.
tried.
No.
No, and to your point, there is the part that, because of personality wise, like you said, you're a pleaser. You like to please people all the time. You can fall into the trap of giving too much, and not necessarily that you need to receive, but you need to give yourself time for your business, for other
Absolutely.
things in your life. I, for one, I fell into that trap. You both know.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I wouldn't call it a trap. That's a bad word to say, but you are wanting to give so much, you have to keep that balance still of
Mhm.
saying,
Yeah.
okay, how much is too much? How much is it that you want to give that it doesn't sacrifice your family, doesn't sacrifice your health, doesn't sacrifice your business?
Mhm.
Yep.
Because let's face it, we know people in our community that they're givers, they're giving, 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 giving. And then, a couple years down the road, something happened that they may have sacrificed either a relationship, might have sacrificed their business or something to that degree. So I really can agree with you no more that yes, we in giving we have to have that balance too.
And I
Mm.
think, Inez, to your point, Inez, I think also, you brought up a great point. Edith brought up self-care, which you definitely should do an episode on that. Work hard, play hard, but the self-care, and you have to think about too with philanthropy in your own business as well. So I like that you highlighted that, Inez, because you do. Sometimes you can give so much that you don't make time for yourself, and that is not healthy for your business, for your professional career. And for a tip for your business owners who might have a small team or a large team for that matter,
Yeah.
identify those people in your team. And you know the givers in your team. You know who's the giver, you know who is the I'm here at 9 o'clock, I'm leaving at 5 o'clock, I'm not giving a cent extra. You know who those people are. So if you have an organization and you have a small business, you've got a couple employees, or you have a larger business with a moderate amount of employees or a larger amount of employees, detect those people. It's part of your job as the leader to find those givers in your people and let them start that chain of community give back. Let them start that chain, and it'll happen organically for your organization. The next thing you know, everybody wants to, whether it's because they truly do or whether it's just guilt. Either way, it's going to benefit us.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, Joe, in the sake of time, because we like to keep our podcast to 30 minutes, one last question that we have is what advice do you have for businesses looking to integrate social impact into their long-term strategy? Is that something that you can give an advice to business owners about?
Absolutely. So I would say start, first of all, really hone in to what's happening in your community and what the needs are, and also hone in and to how your business could impact that organization. Because it's one thing to have maybe it's a virtual business that you have, but the biggest need in your community, or one of the needs in your community, should I say, is food bank, soup kitchen, serving every day people who can't, are poverty stricken and need to eat. That might not be the right fit for your organization. So really hone in. Maybe for the virtual one, maybe it's raising money for childhood cancer or helping with a local walk that's on a Saturday, where you can engage your team. So really hone in to what the needs are in your community, because that's how you can determine if you're more impactful. Kind of gauge how much time you can commit, know that up front, and say, I've only got 1 hour a month, or I've got 3 hours a month that I can give, but I've got 5 employees. So between all of us, that's really only every other month, 1 hour for each of them. And really kind of hone in to what you can do. And then next thing, most importantly, is be sure to grow your business, that when you are publicly out there helping your community, be sure they know who you are. Be sure that if you are a local insurance agency, wear your name tag, wear your shirt, because some of that will come back to you. And that's an important part of growing your business. But what better way to grow a business through helping others? Being able to do what you love to do as a business owner or as a professional, and then be able to give back at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I couldn't have said that better. Those are amazing takeaways. And, what I also hear out of this discussion today is the positive energy that comes just from giving back, and as entrepreneurs, especially small business owners, when you have a smaller team, that's so easy to get wrapped up in your head and get stuck in there. So, this is the Unstuck Your Business podcast. So volunteering and giving back could be a great way for you to feel unstuck and get a spark and, do something different, reignite that creativity inside all of us.
Yes, I have to agree with you, Edith, on that as well, because not only you will get some energy back from giving, we all know that gratitude and giving, I mean, scientifically proven, It makes you feel really, really good. And when you are feeling really, really good, then you can work better in your business. You can be more creative and so forth. But I also think more importantly, at least for me, is you're going to get surrounded by people that are like-minded when it comes to giving.
Like
And I
Joe.
think that's a beautiful thing. Would you say, Joe? I mean, once you
Absolutely.
are giving
Absolutely.
and you are in this environment of people that wants to help the community, it's like the best party you can be in.
Yep. And you will change your work culture. And whether you're an independent worker and you work independently, you have your own business, you have a profession, and that is your business, you will change one, your mental health. It's good for your mental health. And
Mm-hmm.
two, if you have a culture where you have a small workforce in your organization, you're going to change that culture. And everyone knows in any workplace environment, when you change the culture to a positive workforce culture, what does that reflect on? Positive profits, positive growth. All of that comes right back to the bottom line. So it's amazing how, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, you get out of this world what you put into it. You get out of your
Absolutely.
business what you put into it. So the more good you put out there, the more good that's coming back to you. What a joy to be with both of you today, and thank you for taking time to chat with me.
No, thank you for being our guest in this episode. I think you have brought such a wealth of experience, knowledge, and stories that I know that our audience are going to be able to take in. And hopefully, we can hear some stories from our audience, their experience on giving back to the community and being that person that makes that impact in our community. So, thank you so much, Joe, for being in our podcast. And we hope that there's some other topics like we talked about, play hard, work hard, play hard episode that we can continue the conversation with you. But thank you so much for being in our podcast, Joe.
My pleasure. Have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you, Joe.
All righty.
If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, we want to thank you. Let us know what you think about today's topic by leaving us a comment and a review of our podcast.
And if you found some value on the information shared in this podcast, please subscribe and share. And you can find us on our Facebook page, Unstuck Your Business, and join the conversation and engage with other entrepreneurs as together we help each other unstuck our business. Until next time.
Until next time.